to the inner looking.
Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place. Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Contest Weekend, we are back. And we got Tony George from Doc Sports, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Tony, how the heck you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm coming off a celebratory night here in Las Vegas, so a little punchy this morning, but ready to go. Excited about contest weekend out here at Circa. Obviously, Survivor Millions signing up tomorrow. Going to the seminar. Obviously, I see we got 2,615 entries in the Millions, and they're up to almost 6,000 in the Survivor already. So exciting times here in Las Vegas, and of course, all the heavyweights like you, sir, they're in town. So here we are. We're talking college and pro football. It's finally here. I've had a record-setting Major League Baseball season. I kind of hate to see the summer kind of close in and then in the fall start, but we've had a run in Major League Baseball that I broke my own personal record this year.
Well, that's wonderful. You got just sides and totals, or are you kind of doing some derivatives?
You know what? I brought on a guy this year, and what we did was he had an algorithm for a run line system, and we use a run line system with a probability. So what that means is we're taking short favorites that we think can win by multiple runs, and we're getting them at big plus numbers. You know, like yesterday, we had the Yankees at 1.5 on the run line, and they were getting plus 115. They win 6-0, and we've been hitting those. We're up over $18,000 to the good for a $100 player and almost 100 units this year. So my personal record was plus 17,100. So, and the playoffs aren't even here.
Now you got football coming at you. You're killing it at baseball. For me, I still do baseball, but it's not as much. What the problem with it is if you're not laser focused, you can really start going on a bad streak. But that's just, guys are just going to have to wake up early in the morning these days, Tony, and get all our stuff done, my friend. We got NFL, we got college football, we got all kinds of great things going. And what's more important to Tony than Nebraska football, I don't know. But we have to talk Nebraska football. And you know what? If you remember, you're sitting right there. Last year, I was on Nebraska last year, and I completely screwed them because I bet on them, and I was on them, and I'm a sucker for it. And I have some bad news for you, Tony, because I think I'm going to go on them again, my friend.
With 7.5 wins at minus 125, pretty attractive. Now, listen, there's a lot of guys out there. I've seen a lot of pundits, watch some VSiN and some other shows, and a lot of guys are saying Nebraska can go 7-0 out of the gate. I'm not that optimistic, but you take a look at Nebraska last year. They were a 5-win team. They lost 5 games by 1 score or less. They lost to Colorado when they sacked the quarterback 8 times in a game, and they still lost because they gave up 7 turnovers. Nebraska was dead last in turnovers last year in college football, second worst in red zone offense, and third worst in field goals, and yet they still won 5 games. Mm-hmm. Now we got the ultimate coup of the century, getting Dylan Raiola away from Georgia. His old man, Raiola. His old man was a legend at Nebraska, Remington Award winner.
He was an offensive lineman, I thought.
Yes, right? He was. Remington Award winner, best offensive lineman in football for Nebraska, a Nebraska legend. And now his son, now we have this kid here. Now, I went to the spring game this year. Kid threw for 240 yards, got a rifle for an arm. He's got great lateral speed. That's why he was a 5-star recruit. And that's why Georgia had him in the fold, and we were able to get him away. I don't know if he's going to be a massive game changer year one as a 19-year-old kid, basically what you would call a rookie, a frosh. But I think he's going to make a difference. Nebraska's got a couple of wide receivers, one out of Wake Forest that was all ACC, another one out of Texas. Plus, we returned a couple of studs. One of them was a 5-star. They got injured early last year, so they're loaded there. Fedoni at tight end. Mark my words, this kid's going to be all Big Ten this year. He's got dreams of playing on Sunday. 6'6", tight end with 4.6 speed that can makes a lot of yards after the catch, can come down with the ball in traffic. And defensively, they retained Tony White, the defensive coordinator, who's a really good one. We thought we might lose him when the UCLA job opened up because he's a UCLA guy, but we were able to keep him in-house. So, there's a lot of optimism. The schedule's favorable for them out of the gate. We're playing UTEP, is like one of the worst rated teams in college football this year.
They're actually Austin P this year because they're coached by everyone from Austin P.
Yeah, exactly. But the Colorado game looms large on the schedule, second game, and then I'll be at that game. I'm going to that game. I moved back to Kansas City. I'm splitting time between Kansas City here. So what's nice is season tickets to the Huskers 3 hours north of me, and I'm going to a lot of games this year and getting back into what it was. And then we got Northern Iowa, Illinois at Purdue. I think the big game for Nebraska this year, we'll talk about your Badgers. We have them in Lincoln. We're going to talk about your damn Badgers. But I'm saying I think the big game for Nebraska is October 5th. Rutgers is a good football team, and we get them at home. And I think that's going to be a really big test for Nebraska. I think Rutgers is flying under the radar here. They're going to be a competitive football team. You got to bring your A game to beat them. And if we can get by Rutgers in Colorado, we could be talking. I can tell you one thing we're going to be talking this year that we haven't talked a long time in Lincoln. You know what that is, Kiev?
No.
We're going to a bowl.
Oh, did you know that Nebraska has the longest route out of any FBS program to get to the bowl? And that's because Kansas State won last year. Think about that. The Cornhuskers, Nebraska. If you told me in the 1990s that in the 2020s this team would be the longest bowl drought in all FBS, I'd have to kick you in the ass.
I've got that tattooed in my wife's rear end. No bowl game, longest drought in Power 5 history. Nebraska, we went to 36 straight bowl games. And then, they got rid of Solich, and we went through the Mike Riley. And now, Pelini had some good teams in there, but he just didn't fit the culture. And, Riley and Frost was a disaster. The one thing here is the coaching. Matt Rule has done a great job. The players are buying into the culture. He embraced the Nebraska culture. He embraced the walk-on program. He embraced a lot of things that these other coaches didn't. And I was doing a show with Chris Schmidt there from Hell Varsity Radio in Lincoln, part of the Husker Network recently I did over on Doc's YouTube channel. And one thing that we talked about under Mike Riley, under Scott Frost, and you saw a lot of it carry over last year in Matt Rule's first year, 5 final drives where we could win the game ended in turnovers, penalties, or a missed field goal. 5 of them, just like under Frost. Nothing changed, more of the same. But the one thing that we saw that we haven't seen in Lincoln for the last 8 years, player development.
Okay. I'm on him again because I really like Raiola. I saw him. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a potential. Dare I say, could he have a Trevor Lawrence type of start to his career? Now, he's got a gun. He transferred a lot as a high school. He played in Texas, did great, came to Chandler, won a championship in Chandler, Arizona. Then he transferred high schools to Georgia. So even though his dad played for Nebraska, this kid, I would not be certain that he stays. But I don't care about that. What I care about is their schedule, Tony. And I think if you want to do this, this could be a nice Heisman long shot for Raiola. Here's what you do. You take your unit and you split it in half. You make 2 bets for Heisman. Here's what's going on. Schedule. UTEP, first game, win. Colorado at home. I'm calling that a win. Sorry, Dion. Northern Iowa, win. Illinois at home, win. At Purdue, win. Rutgers at home, win. Bye week. At Indiana. I'm a little bit worried about Indiana being there, James Madison, but at this point, your Heisman ticket is now worth something. You can cash out on it, or you can let it ride.
Yep.
I think what you do is sell one of them. Get your money back. You might even be able to sell it for enough to get both money ticket back, and then you can let the other one ride. Because after Indiana, it gets at Ohio State, home against UCLA, which should be a win, at USC, home against Wisconsin.
Win. Win.
You know what? I'll tell you this: if they're undefeated and my Heisman ticket's on fire, I'm going to be watching that game from the bathroom, my friend.
I'm going to be FaceTiming you from the stadium, and rest assured, I will be, my friend.
All right. Well, hey, that sounds like a fun time, but it's going to be a cold time in November 23rd.
Yes, it is.
Bundle up. And then obviously at Iowa, who seems to win all their one-score games, but it's a different Iowa team. They lost their best player in Torrey Hunter, their punter. So
how do you feel? Let's just, since we're going to be talking a lot of Big Ten here, how do you feel about the hype for Iowa this year? They were the worst offensive team I think I've ever seen in my lifetime last year, and now all of a sudden they're in the top 25 again, and this, that, and the other. How do you feel about that Iowa team? Are you that high? I think over the last 2 or 3 years, the coaching carousel, Ferenz is there like Hayden Fry. You can't blow him out of there with a stick of dynamite. But it seems to me a lot of the time, and his thing with his kid last year was a failure, running the offense. I just think has the coaching evolution, offensive evolution, offensive recruiting, has that passed him by?
Yes.
Yes.
Here's the thing. You can put any offensive coordinator with Ferentz there, and he's still going to take the guy over.
Yep.
He's still going to be like, look, I want my defense to feel refreshed. I'm going to run the ball, and I'm going to punt the ball. I don't care what you do. I think there's coaches that do that. Just because a big offensive coordinator is coming over does not mean that the head coach is going to let him have his reign. He's only doing it maybe to appease the fans because they've been yelling about a bad offense. Penn State's trying it with Koltanecki. So we'll see what happens. But just because there's a new offensive coordinator coming doesn't mean that the pace is going to change. You see all these teams that decide to play slow because they want to play slow. They don't want to get beat. They like that muddy game. But I think that's unsustainable this day and age with all the penalties, how they favor the offense. Sure, it's good enough to get to 8 wins sometimes, but you're not going to beat the better teams doing it, Tony.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of good teams in the Big Ten this year. I'm curious, if you're a football purist, and I'm long in the tooth in this business, been doing this 33 years, and I'm a college football purist, and what we've seen with the extermination of the Pac-12 conference last year, after having 6 or 7 teams ranked in the top 25, 4, maybe even 5 of the best quarterbacks in all of college football out of the Pac-12, and that is just gone. But now you've got the introduction of USC, UCLA, and Oregon, which is one of the top 3 teams in the country this year, coming into the conference. I think the Big Ten is just as strong as the SEC this year. Oregon, Ohio State are stacked. Michigan, though, that 9.5 season win total, Kiev, you lost everybody. And I'm not saying we just lost a quarterback and a running back and we got to – no, you lost you lost Blake Corum and a first-round draft pick in McCarthy. Too bad for him blowing that MCL out and not being able to play football for the Vikings this year. But at the end, you lost almost everything, NFL-level talent, not to mention Jim Harbaugh. And now you're expected to win 9 games, and then you got a team like Washington that lost all 11 offensive starters, and they got a 6.5 win total on them. And a whole Jeff, Fish is coming up there from Arizona. What's he got to work with? And I'm curious to know also, these teams in the SEC, like Texas, Oklahoma, these teams, Oregon, Washington, you're used to your conference and going to Cal Berkeley to play, to Palo Alto to play, this, that, and the other. And now a team like Washington is traveling to Rutgers all the way across the country. I mean, there's going to be some adjustments for all these teams. And if you think Texas is going to go down and walk through the SEC, they got a 2-game win total that's higher than Alabama's, for crying out loud, in their first year in the SEC. I think there's a lot of interesting things at play here.
Tony, that's a lot to cover, and I will start by I agree with you from Michigan. They are absolutely rebuilding. This is not the NFL where just because the team, is pretty good, they're going to be pretty good again. Michigan 9-win total. That's just saying, you can't go to 6. Why can't you go to 6? Why can't you put the win total up to 6? They lost everybody.
Yep.
They lost the best coach in college football, most likely. Next to Nick Saban because he left. Jim Harbaugh had that program going. Sure, they could beat Ohio State the first 4 or 5 years, but eventually they just started running them. They kind of came out of nowhere, and they came in confident. They went to the shoe and ended up beating them.
Yeah,
that was
got that monkey off his back.
Got the monkey off his back. With college football, it changes so much, and the kids are gone. I know that they recruit well still, but this, you can think about other good recruiting teams, Texas A&M, the Ole Misses. Actually, Ole Miss is actually pretty good.
Real good this year.
Right, Florida. Florida. There's good recruiting teams that doesn't, they still lose 5 or 6 games. I think Michigan's going under 6, and they're going under 9. I would even look for the all total under 7.5 and get some big plus money on that.
Yeah.
It's a perfect segue though, because I have the odds up here on our screen. To make the playoffs here. And if you're listening to this in podcast form, you can always check it out on video form, or just go to the odds while you're listening to make the playoffs. Tony, there is about 6 or 7 teams that's favored to make the playoffs, meaning you're laying juice. You got Ohio State at -650.
Wow.
You got Georgia at -600.
Wow.
You got Oregon at -300, Texas -230, Notre Dame -160, Ole Miss -130, Alabama -110, and Penn State somewhere in there as well at minus money. Which one of these teams do not make the playoffs?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing right now. You take a look when you're talking about this 12-team playoff, the top 9 teams are either from the ACC or, the SEC or the Big Ten. So I think 8 of the teams in the 12-team playoff are going to be out of those 2 conferences, and you're going to have to throw Notre Dame in there. They're always going to get in if they got 9 or 10 wins. And then basically you have 2 or 3 wild cards for everybody else, which sucks. Maybe the ACC champion, this, that, and the other. The one, you know what? I got to be honest with you. I think Texas is overhyped. I do. I'm not big on Sarkisian. I've never been a Ewers fan. Obviously, they got the Manning kid in the backup role there. They're deep. Texas also lost their top 2 running backs in fall camp so far to injury. The SEC is going to be a wake-up call for them. You're not going up to Stillwater and Lawrence and Little Apple and Manhattan, and up to Ames, Iowa anymore. Now you're going down and pissing in the tall wheat with the big dogs. And I think there's going to be some adjustment there. And I'm not sold on Sarkisian, even though he coached in the SEC under Saban. I'm still not sold. I've seen him make bonehead calls in big games, bad decisions. And I tell you, of all those, I think Texas may fall.
I don't disagree with that. Texas and Oregon are the 2 teams that I would bet on the plus money side to not make the playoffs. I think the road's too easy for Penn State. Michigan's at plus 140. I would fade that too. We already discussed that, though.
Oh, yeah.
Notre Dame has a great schedule. They just got to beat Texas A&M, and they're really set up to make the playoffs. But I don't like any team switching conferences, really.
No.
I think it's just a different style of football. And these conference teams feel insulted that they're coming in. You think that even the Indianas and the Rutgers, you think that they're just going to let them come in and just beat them up? They're going to have a chip on their shoulders, kids. It's like, oh, you're coming to my territory. You're coming into my house.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this first year hard. Every single small team is going to step up against them, Tony.
Yeah, that's just it. I just think there's an adjustment period for these teams that are switching conferences and going to unfamiliar territories. It's like asking, a golfer, say, we're going to play the Masters this year, but we're not going to play at Augusta this year. We're going to go play it at such and such golf course instead. And a lot of these guys' game isn't geared towards that or whatever. When you throw, I think it's a big curveball in the mix for these programs for this newly acquired travel schedule like, Washington having to go all the way out to Rutgers. That's from one end of the nation to the other.
Mm-hmm.
About as far, might be the longest travel schedule, the longest trip in college football.
Right.
And go out there and play a good team. And Chiano's got a good team this year. He's going to give you a ball game, and, he's improved that. He's done the same thing he did before, improve the program. He's a lot like Matt Rule, for Nebraska. Give him 2 or 3 years, they're going to give you a ball game and turn programs around. The one thing that jumped out the board at me here on these NCAA odds to make the college football playoffs is the fact that my Huskers are in front of those Wisconsin Badgers on the board. I wanted to point that out right away.
How's that been working?
It's 2 against 1. You got your co-producer Sean over here. He's
ready to jump up and punch you in the face.
I know. Yeah, he's looking disgruntled. I'm just, don't shoot the messenger here. One team here though that I wanted to talk about and get your thoughts on, 2 teams actually that's in the front row here. Utah, if they stay healthy, might be stacked this year. Cam Rising's in his 9th year. I think Utah is a team.
He's like 35 to 40 years old.
Yeah,
a kid going through college himself.
Right. He's like Grayson McCall was down in Coastal Carolina. He played there like 14 years. But at the end of the day here, I think Utah's the team that you want to keep an eye on. They might win the Big 12 their first year, and that's saying something. Do I think Oregon can win the Big 10? No. Well, do I think Utah can win the Big 12? I do.
Well, there's 2 teams in the Big 12 that play defense. One is Utah, and one is Kansas State. Those are the 2 teams I can trust for defense, and that's why their odds show it. That's why their odds are saying it. But if you want a sleeper for the Big 12, and I think I briefly discussed this, there's a quarterback named Daquan Finn that transferred to Baylor. And this is a big sleeper because they're 65 to 1 to win Big 12. I took it. I took it for a little bit. I don't know, maybe it was $20 to $50 bet. I can't remember. But either way, I like having a little bit of action in all conferences here. But all they need to do is make the Big 12 championship. You can easily hedge out of that and make a lot of money. Now, Daquan Finn was fantastic at Toledo, and he was the reason they won the MAC. But this is Dave Aranda with his back against the wall. He's possibly going to get fired. Do you remember that first year of Dave Aranda coaching? The Baylor was fantastic. They went all the way to the championship game and won it.
Well, hell, they wanted to give him a 10-year contract.
Yeah.
After the first year.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but I remember Rand being our coordinator at Wisconsin in like the J.J. Watt.
T.J. Watt.
And he was fantastic. And he goes to LSU and he wins the championship.
Yes.
Experience. And, this could be the team. Everybody's on UCF. Everyone is on UCF because of Jefferson.
Yeah.
What did I hear all these excuses like his offensive line was terrible. Well, you know what? You still got to get through it. This is college football. You're a 6'5" guy with all kinds of speed. You look like an Anthony Richardson. They're calling you Cam Newton already. When's this gonna? Is this gonna really happen? Because you couldn't freaking hit the broadside of a barn last year throwing that football.
Right.
And so UCF's is kind of one of those trendy, sharper teams, but I'm just going to pivot and look at Baylor. Nobody's talking about Baylor.
No, nobody's talking about Baylor. Don't discount Kansas State either. That's a very good football team. They have probably the best. Well, Whittingham's a good coach, but they have one of the best coaches in college football. That guy out of North Dakota State, and he's done nothing but continue the Bill Snyder-ish type culture that they've established there that got them back on the map. And he's been a tremendous, and they always have tremendous talent. They lost a lot of quarterback last year. The other one too here that I wouldn't sleep on that I think's flying under the radar screen here a little bit is Miami. They could win the ACC this year. They could. There's another team right there at plus 220. But who's going to drop out of there? Michigan shouldn't be in there. Alabama shouldn't be in there. I think Ole Miss is a sleeper to be a top seed.
I took the under Alabama. I took under 9.5 wins.
They shouldn't be there.
And now they didn't change conferences, but the coach did. They lost too many guys on defense. It's a different system. The kids got to learn. And I'm not a big Milroe guy.
I don't know. What's he done?
Nothing yet.
What's he done?
He gave me one pass against Auburn where the receiver pushed off and he called. And they beat Auburn. That's what he's done. I guess he beat Georgia.
So a miracle. He's done
bigger game that game.
Miracle Hail Mary play, and now he's the savior Roll Tide football. I don't see it. I think Alabama. Well, there's a reason they have. When's the last time you saw Alabama have a season win total of 8.5? I mean, how many years has it been?
2006, maybe?
Yeah,
Something like that.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been
So-
before Nick Saban.
Mhm.
Yeah, before he saved that place. So, well, let's keep looking down the board here. Maybe we can find a little nugget to make the playoffs here. What do you think about the smaller schools? Because everyone's talking about Boise State, how they should run the table, and it really was set up for them by the Mountain
Yeah.
West to run the table with that schedule. But you can't forget App State at 10-1.
Nope.
They could go through the Sun Belt and make the playoffs. They can get one of these teams in. Some folks are in Texas State thinking that they're a better team. South Florida is a real sneaky one. They're only at 15-1. That tells you they have a shot.
They got a good coach.
They do.
They have a good foot. I'm surprised he didn't get nabbed up this year as much as the coaching carousel was going on. I thought he was the guy. I won a bunch of money with them last year.
Oh, nice.
Betting them. Boy, you could get them. Liberty's an interesting story again. There's another small school that you want to keep an eye on. Boise State. I haven't talked. The thing that worries me about Boise State is I haven't talked. And I can see, obviously, you're a sharp. I'm a sharp. It's what we do for a living. We study this stuff. I haven't talked to one single sharp that just did not love Boise State. And when that happens, it scares me.
When too many people are on something.
Yes.
it scares you a little bit.
That's what
It's
scares
like-
me about them.
Like a bad rumor that goes from person to person to person. Even if sharp people are on it, it is something like, why is there nobody looking other direction?
Right.
I looked a little bit at Colorado State. Norvell. I think everyone. The Sharps were on them the last 2 years, and they kind of decided to give up on them. But
Yeah.
I think that game at home against Colorado could be their kicking point to making a run at this. And I don't think they're better than Boise State, and they're probably not going to beat Boise State. But you can also get them as a great price to get to the championship game. And maybe they're the sleeper this year because Air Force lost everybody.
Yeah, Air Force
has
is
no
No offensive line.
their season win total is still 6 something.
6.5.
Okay. Free pick of the show. We got 2 of them for you. Michigan, Air Force, under on the season win total.
Yeah, Air Force has a great coach, but when you're not returning anybody, you remember what happened to Navy and Army when they're really good. All of a sudden, their guys leave. They're just terrible. You're
Look
like,
what happened to last year in the when they needed to win games. You got to diversify that offense. You can't continue to run that.
Yeah.
While they're running, you can't do that in this day and age.
they try to add some passing quirks in there, and it would work only because the team is so geared up for the option. But
Right.
the truth is, it's not going to work against anybody with any athletes.
No. So, and when you get into a championship game, you can't. It's not going to work. I mean, when you get at the highest level of competition, having a quarterback in there that can throw a wobbly 25-yard pass to a tight end that's not used to catching the ball. He's a blocking tight end for a triple option attack. I mean, you don't. When you get your back against the wall with that offense, you don't have too many options.
That's true.
That's true.
Let's go back to the Big 12, man. This conference is a total shit show. I got Iowa State there that looks pretty good with their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That kid came out of nowhere last year, and they played well, and everyone likes Campbell as a coach. Obviously, you mentioned Kansas State. I do like Kansas State at 4-1 to win their, sprinkle that, have a little bit more on them than you do on Baylor to win their conference.
Oklahoma State's not. Look, I thought. Let's talk about Oklahoma State for a minute. Everybody left them for dead on the side of the road, like a dog turd in a cantaloupe patch last year. I'm telling you what, everybody hated Oklahoma State. Thought they were going to go under the season win total, and you know who was on that bandwagon? Me. What did Mike Gundy do? The best coaching job of his entire career last year.
Well,
I had him at 40-1 to win it, and I had a shot of it.
but
I got that early.
Yeah.
So I made
a little bit of money. I had to lay a lot of juice in
Texas, and I knew that they were going to be. But here's the thing: I think that was a lucky bet for me. I don't think I deserve that. They won so many one-score games.
Yeah.
It was that team that just the metrics were terrible, but they were winning games. And that was coaching. I agree. It was all coaching.
Best coaching job he's done.
Absolutely.
And now he returns everybody,
Including that stud running back they got. And I think he won the Doak Walker Award last year.
Yep.
His name has left me, but he's going to come back and 10 starters on offense are back.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
looks good. But
And I like how Mike Gundy decided to work with what he lost his 5th-year senior quarterback. He transferred out to Ole Miss, went in behind Dart. Sanders never even got to play hardly. I don't know what that was. There had to have been some sort of.
It's like a career suicide. You transfer to Ole Miss, you hoping that Rattler gets injured?
Dart, yeah.
There was something weird with that.
There had to have been some sort of internal conflict. But what Gundy did was he went away from kind of that run and shoot offense he likes to run, and he pounded the rock and he played good defense. He coached that team with what he had and emphasized his strengths and completely changed the way that they played their offense, and he was successful at it. And Oklahoma State was more physical than they have been in years past.
Right.
They're a little bit more wide open. Kind of a lot of times he reminded me of Dana Holgerson. We'll just outscore you. Yeah. We don't need to play any defense. Well, he changed his philosophy last year, and now he's bringing back that same offense that steamrolled everybody last year. Yeah. And I'll guarantee you one thing: if you go to sleep on Oklahoma State at any point in time, you don't bring your A game, they'll beat you.
They will beat you.
Yeah. You got to be very careful.
That's my sleeper in the Big 12, actually.
Yeah.
I think I
make a case for 12 teams in the Big 12.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
A lot of parity in that conference.
Yeah, there's only 14 that I can't, so maybe I should mention them.
And before I do that, Oklahoma State, you look at this book. This is the Big Six previews.
Absolutely the best publication out there.
125th total defense. This team made the championship game ranking 125th in total defense. That's what I was talking about metrically. But let's get to the 4 teams that are out of it in the Big 12. Cincinnati, I bet them under 5.5. This is the team that's struggling. I don't like Satterfield all that much in this conference. I think that they're just sitting ducks. Emery was terrible last year. You saw him. He gets in for one play of the Ravens, scores freaking tied. I'm just hoping to push my John Harbaugh Baltimore bet. Just give the ball. First drive, they kick the field goal and win it. I mean, this guy came from Cincinnati.
I wish you have no better.
I would these guys in the NFL.
But Cincinnati, I'm not big on Houston the first year. I think they're going to eventually be good.
Houston's going to be a bottom feeder.
Yeah.
They made one improvement. They got rid of their coach.
They at least got rid of Holgerson.
Yeah, that guy was the worst coach in college. But there's a guy that you could bet the over in every game.
Yeah, he was definitely an over player.
Yeah,
over.
He was at West Virginia. He was calling plays for Gundy down Oklahoma State.
Yep. Willie Fritz is there now. From Tulane. He's a great coach.
Yeah,
but they're in a honeymoon year right now.
Yeah, the cupboards are bare.
Yeah,
it's like Matt Rule inheriting Nebraska. It's a big job. No, it's not. We suck. We don't have anybody. We don't have any recruits. No talent in the house right now.
BYU is another one. I'm not really believing in. I think they have it tough this year. They have a really difficult schedule.
Yeah.
They have to play Arkansas. Or no, they played Arkansas last year. This year, the schedule says they got to go to SMU, who's in the ACC.
Yep.
So that's going to be a tough game. At Wyoming's not a give me either. Southern Illinois, they should win that. Then they got Kansas State at Baylor, a bye. Then Arizona, who's pretty tough this year.
Yep.
Oklahoma State at UCF. At Utah.
Good luck. Yep.
Kansas at home. Maybe you win at Arizona.
So far, you've given me 3 wins, maybe 4.
3.5 is the win total.
Yeah, definitely. And that's again. We have an adjustment period, too. You're in the Big 12 now. You're going to places you never played. It's holding 50, 60,000 people in a lot of these arenas and against good football teams that have been in fertile recruiting ground for a long time, and you're behind the 8 ball. All these schools are. Like a Houston, now you're recruiting up. Houston was always recruiting against Texas A&M and Baylor and, TCU, but at day's end, I think BYU is going to have a rough year this year.
Absolutely. They have it tough. Well, let's talk about the SEC, the people that they call the Super Conference. The SEC, the big and bad SEC. So now you got Texas and Oklahoma bring in. You don't like Texas. I don't really love Texas either. I think they can do a good job, man.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, too. Oklahoma's going to have a rough year, dude.
I think so, too.
Big time.
Yeah, they lost their
Oregon. He's up in Oregon. I think Oklahoma will be lucky to get a minor bowl bid. they could easily be a 6-win team this year. It would not surprise me.
Is Georgia top your power ratings?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got Georgia, Ohio State. I got Oregon in there. And I'm high on Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I think Ole Miss is. I tell you, he did as well. Matter of fact, this publication that we're talking about, folks, this Pick Six preview. If you look in the front of this book and you look at the transfer portal rankings and who got what, let me tell you something. Lane Kiffin got a bunch of all-stars in the portal in the offseason. His quarterback is back, and he's in a gettable SEC this year. Outside of Georgia, it's gettable. Now, Georgia showed they have some faults last year a little bit, and they're breaking in a new quarterback. Georgia lost they lost that stud tight end playing for the Raiders now. Bennett's in the NFL. I mean, you've got a team here that's a little bit in transition. Now, Georgia, unfortunately, did what the Alabama did, what Nebraska did back in the 90s. They just reload. Lose all this NFL talent. They reload, and they're a perennial top 5 team again the next year. Hardly any drop-off.
Yep.
It's very hard to do that in this day and age, with the transfer portal and recruiting and having big advantages. But Georgia just seems to be able to be immune to a big drop-off. But if there was one, I think this might be the year that they're going to struggle a little bit. And I
don't think so. I think they for once Georgia actually returned the most that they've returned in years. And Carson Beck played pretty dang good last year. I will say that Carson Beck isn't as good as the old quarterback there, though.
He's not as good as what's his face? What's the Rams
at Ole Miss?
That's the game.
I don't think Georgia goes undefeated.
I
want to see a prop.
I don't think any. You know what?
November 9th.
I'm going to put this down for Mike Palm. I should have asked Jeff Benson this yesterday. I want to see a prop to not make the playoff, or to not a team to go. Not any team in the Power Four. Because I can see Liberty running
right.
Any team in the Power Four to not go undefeated. I want to see what that prop is. I want to see what they think, and I want to see where they put the line. Maybe I'll have Mike Palm that when he comes on later today.
Sure.
But it's an interesting thought.
Who has a better chance to go undefeated, Ohio State or Georgia? There's a question.
Ohio State at Oregon. But I'm not as high in Oregon as everybody else. I'm still high on them. I'm fourth, fifth. Yeah, it's not like I'm that different than everybody. But I would say Ohio State is a better chance to go undefeated than Georgia.
Do you think, like everybody else, I don't think that the ultimate coup for Oregon was getting that Oklahoma quarterback? Is he that good? I mean, I watched him struggle mightily against teams like Kansas State on the road last year, when that game was back. I mean, I'm not Gabriel. Was he that big of a steal?
He had some choker games last year.
Yeah, I don't think so. But he's obviously with a high-powered offense now.
Yeah.
And so you got to understand that there's upside. A lot of people are just giving them an upside. That's just freaking guaranteed. Nobody knows shit. Nothing is guaranteed here. You're going to see a team that all sharp people are on that's going to fail. You're going to see more teams that public bettors are on. Texas, that's going to fail. Or at least not exceed their expectations. You're going to see a team come out of nowhere like a Baylor, like I mentioned before. Maybe it's Virginia Tech. We haven't talked about JCC yet, but you're just going to see that this year.
Right. I think Miami's flying under the radar screen in the ACC. Florida State.
Everybody kind of talking about.
They are a little bit. I mean, you're hearing some noise now as we're getting closer to the season. Let's see what Florida State's got this weekend. I think they might have their hands full a little bit with Georgia Tech with the offense that Georgia Tech has.
I took their team total over to today. Georgia Tech 21.
That Haynes King ball.
He can play now.
He
was on Texas A&M last year.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
And so
last year he threw for 2,700, ran for 600, had what? 26, 27 touchdown passes, 5 rushing TDs. Here was the problem last year. He liked to throw it to the other team a little bit too much in the turnover department, and I think he shores that up a little bit. They're going to be a tough out. They got their top running back, their top receivers are back. Let's say Florida State lost a lot. I mean, it's in Ireland. It's going to be kind of crappy weather, you know. So I haven't
got a weather update. I'm going to do that
Georgia
now.
Tech's a team you want to look at. Maybe not this game, but it's a team because their defense sucked so bad last year. But this is a team, Georgia Tech, that you want to take a look at on the totals. You want to start sniffing overs with them if that guy gets to rolling. So
partly cloudy tomorrow, 63 degrees, crisp football weather.
Yep.
Winds 50 miles per hour, but the wind in Ireland go up and down.
Yeah,
what I'm hearing,
I think that is enough to get the team total over. Now, the Sharps money, it's tough to take 10.5 now. You could have got 13 all year. That's why I'm going team total because I still think Florida State could be up by 7 points and just get that final touchdown at the end. Maybe it's a field goal you hope for, right? But
I'm thinking that 55.5. I don't know what the number is today. What is the number today? I didn't look this morning.
It's probably 55.5.
Yeah, you might want to sniff that under a little because Florida State's going to want to run the football and break in this new quarterback, and they're going to want to eat some clock. And one thing about this Haynes King is he's a type of quarterback, a dual threat type of quarterback that can move the chains on 3rd and 4 when the slant pass doesn't work.
Close 55.
Okay, I would sniff under on that a little bit. I could easily see a 24-28 game, something like that here in this ball. You could easily see a 21-17 game. Depending on what you just don't know. There's too many intangibles in this game. I put out a side play in this game over at DocSports.com, but along with one NFLX game this weekend, it was a 2-unit play. It was nothing special. I'm not getting it. There's a lot of question marks, but I saw some things on both sides of the ball that I'm not going to disclose deeply here, but I'm trying to make a living. But at day's end here, you want to keep an eye on Georgia Tech this year on some of those overs. Think if you get some games in the 50s with them, they might be worth a look as the season rolls along, especially if King stays healthy.
Yeah,
that's true. King. That could be your sneaky team this year.
Yeah.
That could be your absolutely. We haven't talked about ACC really.
Miami's sitting there. My Chris Paul's
for freaking terrible.
I can't stand that guy.
Virginia Tech's kind of like the one I was on, but I know a lot of other people were on. SMU is sneaky, but I don't think that they're going to transfer well into the ACC. Clemson is just stubborn. Everything about that.
What's your thought on Clemson's overall this year?
I think that there's just going to be a boring Iowa, maybe better than Iowa type team. I don't like Caleb that much. I think that his style of coaching only works when you're winning. When you're losing, it's turn on you by getting yelled at all day. They lost their defense coordinator, obviously, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Oklahoma there.
Yeah.
And, it's just
Brett Venables. It's changed there. They're still going to be a defense powerhouse, but, they're kind of like the Iowa.
He is, you know what? You hit the nail on the head. He's like Kurt Ferenc when it comes to coaching, even recruiting. He doesn't hit the portal hard either. He's old school. I'm telling you, if you don't evolve with the ever-changing landscape of college football, you're going to get behind the 8 ball very quickly, and I don't give a rat's ass if you're Clemson, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, any blue blood program. You've got to stay up with the times, and you've got to diversify your offense. You've got to be able to have speed on defense. And I'll tell you what, right now, the only guy that really did the old school method well is now in the NFL, and that was Jim Harbaugh. He was able to do that old school mentality, physical football, run the football, have your quarterback be a good game manager, But I just think the coaching, the curve in the coaching has changed, and guys like Ferenc and Sweeney, I think it's passed them by a little bit. They're either going to have to adapt and change, like we talked about Mike Gundy did last year, or you're going to be left for dead on the side of the road like if somebody hit an armadillo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
man,
and it's I agree 100%. Clemson, they could come out of it, but I just don't see it. I think it's probably Miami. Virginia Tech, Florida State looks like a down year to me. I cannot believe what they did to Florida State because they injured a quarterback. You don't do that to a team. Leave them out of the playoffs, going freaking undefeated in a Power 5 conference like that. That was just absolutely asinine. This is what drives me nuts of how the media and everything kind of really ruins sports sometimes. I'm a little frustrated with it. If I was a Florida State fan, I'd be frustrated. But now that they have 12 teams, there should be no excuses. Of course, you're going to hear the guy. We got left out of 13. Well, you know what? We had at least. You should have won 2. You should have lost 2 games. Sorry, dude. Yeah, at least you can say that. But if you go undefeated, I think that's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what the Florida State Redemption Tour is going to be like this year. And I think we'll get you'll get a little. We're going to get a little bit of a sampling, a little bit of a barometer this weekend against Georgia Tech, who is an opponent that if you don't bring your A game, I've said this a lot during the show. But there's a lot of parity in the ACC. There's a lot of parity in the Big 12, and I think, past the top 3 or 4 of the SEC and the Big 12, there's also a lot of parity there. There's going to be a shitload of coin flip games this year that you and I got to worry about calling, by the way, which is going to be, maddening. I'm going to look like Sean over there, no hair left at the end of this season. Sorry, buddy. But
Sean was a good boy last night. He went to bed early.
That's what he said. He said he went to take a nap at 6:30 and he woke up at He woke up.
I got to Mark Canada. There's no Sean. I was either going to be stuck at a blackjack table or in bed. There's only 2 different places I could have talked. And so I'm glad he picked the correct one. So because he was actually up earlier than me this morning. Said he was up at 4 a.m. So there you go. This man, even on Wisconsin time.
I was going to say Wisconsin boy, Vegas. Sean, you came by yourself, right? You're solo, no wife, no girlfriend, nothing, and you were in bed on a Thursday night, contest weekend at 6:30. Oh my God. Dude,
we're not going to bust Sean Paul. I'm sure he'll avenge that tonight.
Because there's a lot going on in Circa.
Yeah, I'm going to be down here tonight, buddy. You come on, we'll buy you an aperitif.
There's no lot going on Circa because there's the pool today. It starts at it starts at 9.
Yeah. Well, I'm down here now.
Yeah, you got a show to do with humans.
I'll be on Visa tonight at 8:30. I'll Visa tonight.
You better behave yourself.
Yeah, I have to behave.
The Circa Contest is great. I'm already in the millions. I'm deciding how many survivors. The survivors up to 5,921 current entries. That went up a lot more than millions did yesterday. Millions went from 25.15 to 26.15. I think millions is a little short. You know what that means?
What does that mean?
Overlay. Dead money.
Yeah.
This is Derek's dead money. Derek's going to come on next.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get some people for Derek so he's not putting too much money out of his pocket for this amazing contest he puts on every single year. But I mean, for us sports bettors, it's beneficial because there's no rake, there's no juice, and there's extra money in the pot, and you just place in the top 100 and you win.
Yeah, this is a contest. I'm going to have at least 3 entries. Then I'll be signing up with. Well, I saw. Was it picture you with Foxy Proxy yesterday?
Yes, sir.
Tony.
She's
over
awesome.
At football
contest. I'll sign you up right away.
Yeah, I just ran into her on the way up here. She's here today. If you're in town, go down there and ask for Tony at footballcontest.com. There's also other proxies. Maddie will be here tomorrow. Tony's here today. I just talked. She's going over to Westgate tomorrow. Apparently Westgate still has a contest.
She was here yesterday, so I thought that'd be here. That's cool.
Yeah, but 26.15 are going to add 3 more for me tomorrow, and I think Riff Murphy and I are going to get Survivor and split it this year. We're going to go on a team.
Have a good time.
Hey,
I would love to see you guys down the stretch, man.
Oh, I got
with myself, of course.
Yeah, I got in that thing, and we were 5 weeks left in the season 2 years ago, and I took the Steelers over the Lions and in Pittsburgh. And guess what happened? Tie ball game. And on Friday, after I put my pick in, they said Roethlisberger wasn't going to play. And I had the lovely Mason Rudolph who is the only quarterback I know in the NFL that could throw a freaking interception on the 2-yard line.
He also
beat Seattle last year, though, didn't he?
Oh my God, dude! Welcome to the Survivor contest at the Circa, where it will.
Sure, you want to go through this stress, buddy?
You know what? I didn't last year, and I got into a local contest with about $300 grand prize down in Kansas City, and I got to the final weekend and dumped. So I had to take somebody crappy.
Yeah.
And just I didn't strategize. There's so much strategy that goes into this, especially with this contest because of the Christmas and the Thanksgiving weekends where you have multiple picks going on. There's a lot of stuff, and that's what the fall preview with Mike Palm tomorrow and these guys are going to talk a little bit about some of the strategy as well as overlook some programs. So be sure and get down here to Circa in the Galaxy Ballroom where we're broadcasting right now. Tomorrow, you and I went to this last year together.
Yes, we did.
We went to that. It was awesome.
You know what? It was a great time, great information. We wrote down some questions.
Yep.
Eric Eager was there last year. There was a great Mike Palm did a great job.
Oh, yeah, sure. Mike's a great guy.
We got Will Spaghetti coming on in.
That was 2 years ago. That was a great Brian. As a Bears fan, I absolutely love that. We got Jeff.
Thanks for not bringing up last night's preseason game, by the way, against my Chiefs.
Thanks for
not bringing up last night's preseason game.
It's
the Bears are just running on pure hype and steam. And they're having a good time. But once the NFL starts, something's going to possibly hit them in the face.
Reminds me of Denver.
I'm sorry. I'm a pessimist.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are the easiest division in football right now. It's almost like LeBron James when he was in the East for 10 years. They are gifted now. Jim Harbaugh will be good, but it's not necessarily going to be this year.
You know what? You've had him on your show, Matt Humans. Matt Humans just did my show over at Doc Sports YouTube channel this week. We talked about the AFC West specifically, and you know what Matt told me? He thinks that the Chargers this year are going to challenge the Chiefs. That's how big of a deal Harbaugh is. Well, I'll tell you what. If that quarterback of theirs goes down, Herbert, we've seen what they got with Easton Stick and these other guys. They need him to get healthy. He's got that plantar fasciitis right now, and they need to get that healed up. But he thinks the Chargers are going to be that strong this year.
Unfortunately, I did
until the plantar fasciitis. That's a bet that I'm kind of worried about the over.
I think he's got some good. I mean, Harbaugh's going to short those games. They're going to be a fantastic under team. I know
everyone thinks Justin Herbert this and that. They're going to be an under team this year.
I would even say in the low 40s is too high for this team. I think that they're going to slow it down. They're going to win ugly like they did. Jim Harbaugh always does, like they did in Michigan. Until
at 49ers too when he was coaching.
Yep.
I mean, how did he slow down that offense? He made Kaepernick look good.
He sure did. You saw what happened after he left. Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a great season.
And getting these contests, there's going to be an overlay in the Circa Millions. Looks like Survivor probably not. Survivor obviously is the 10 million guaranteed. It's probably going to get. I'm going to say it's going to be about 10.5 million in the Survivor pot. So it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Get down here and talk to me, talk to Tony, talk to Sean, talk to any of us. We'd love to see you, Tony. Where could our listeners and viewers get your great information?
Well, DocSports.com's been around 53 years, staple in the industry. Great website. If I'm not your flavor, we have 12 other guys on there. That's, we're like a Baskin Robbins. If you don't like, the chocolate mousse royale, go get the, peppermint chip, whatever you want to get. Great information over there. And, of course, our YouTube channel, Doc Sports. I give out daily free play videos. We launched the Gridiron Six-Pack today. Myself and Griffin Murphy, a buddy of yours and mine both. Great young handicapper. And that show went 68.7% against the spread last year. Over 100-game sample size. That's on YouTube each and every Wednesday. Today we're doing it on Friday. We're doing this futures preview. And so check me out there on YouTube and, of course, Twitter at TGeorgeSports. There I'm going to be giving out a lot of free stuff on Twitter as well. I do a lot of second half line bets, and I put those out on Twitter for free. So find me over there, and of course, you can find me at the Mega Bar tonight with Kiev and Sean and some of the Doc Sports crew, and catch me tonight on Visa with Matt Humans on Visa tonight, 8:30 Pacific Standard Time is when I'm going on for a little spot, giving away some win totals. So be sure to catch me there.
Well, make sure you check out Tony. He's a great dude. He's a great handicapper. DocSports.com. Thanks a lot, Tony.
Yeah, my man.
All right. Well, we're going to be back in a few minutes with Derek Stevens after this 5-minute break. All right. Well, we are back. Sean Kanaki's back, and Derek is just finishing up with another show. Sean, Tony said a lot. I know he's picking on you a little bit over there, man. I saw you getting furious. What do you think?
I don't think furious is the right word. He was right on. I got 4 hours of sleep on Wednesday night, and I shouldn't have lied down after dinner. So, but it happens in Vegas, right? Time seems to fly away from you. You're not paying attention, and you sleep at different times. And I happen to just sleep, 10 hours starting at 6:30. Got up at 4. It was great.
And that's what it is. You got out of your system now. You got a tolerance. You're going to be fine for the rest of the weekend. That's what's really important. But what about your thoughts on the Big 12 there?
I broke them down with Tony, and like I said, I said I could make a case for like 12 of the 16 teams. I mean, what are your thoughts on this conference?
Looking at the Big 12, I think with the new entrants, you're going to see a little bit of a change over there. I don't think anybody coming in from the Pac-12 is particularly super strong, right? Arizona's the one that everybody's kind of hanging on. That's going to have a solid season, but I think they're going to be walking into a hornet's nest. And a couple of the places that you guys talked about, I think Oklahoma State is my pick to come out of that conference. But I think with Utah, and then the other school that you guys didn't really touch on a lot that coach has proven as a winner is Kansas. The question is, can that defense hold together? Because I still think they're going to score some points, and their schedule isn't totally unfavorable for them in the conference there. They're at Kansas State, which is the big one where they're probably going to have to go out and win that game. They're at Baylor at the end of the year, but they don't play Oklahoma State and they don't play Utah. So that is a sneaky team that could actually come up and win that Big 12, I think, as well. If their defense is anything, if they can give them something, I think that team could possibly come out and win the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, it's open. It's wide open.
And I like looking for long shots when things are more open, man. I do. I think that the 4 teams you can't trust: Arizona State, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston. Those teams I can't trust. I don't think that they're going to be any good. I did take under 5.5. But I think that it's so open that I took multiple shots. I actually took a shot with Kansas State, like you said, 4-1. Kansas State is a fantastic team with just great coaching there. Chris Kleiman's a fantastic coach and great.
So I do like. They've got the defense in the conference.
I'm going high on them. I'm just diversifying. Chris Felica last week talked me into doing UCF. All right, fine. I figured now I can't hedge. I got 4 teams to try to win this thing. It's almost like rolling the dice, I got UCF at 8 or 9-1. I think I got them at 9-1. I got West Virginia, believe it or not. I think they have a good offense, and they could just be one of those teams to sneak up in there, kind of like Oklahoma State did last year. I'm fading Oklahoma State this year, by the way. And then I took Baylor at 65-1. That's the one I really want to happen, Sean.
Yeah, I think you'll see a wide open conference, and like I said, I think they'll beat up on each other a little bit. Kansas State is the only one that's really going to play any defense, so the rest of the teams are going to have some shootouts, and I think you're going to see some upsets along the way as well. So I'm not sold on anybody. That's why I'm taking the shot on Kansas.
Not a bad call.
Not a bad call. I love Lance Leopold, and he coached at UW Whitewater back in our old stomping ground area for years before he went to Buffalo, and he just changed Buffalo's program, went to the MAC championship. They should have won it. They lost to Northern Illinois, just couldn't get that good play out of the quarterback. But he's look what he's doing with Kansas. My only problem is Jalen Daniels. Does he get hurt? He's been injury prone like a China doll. I hate it when that happens, and they have just nobody backing him up. But yeah, they're definitely one of my 12 teams. What about Arizona with Fafita there? Now they lost their coach, Jed Fish, to Washington. Fafita, he was a stud last year, but they also kind of caught teams overlooking him, Sean.
Yeah, and I think with their schedule coming in, they're going to have a tougher go of it. I'm not sold on Arizona simply because of the schedule. And coming into the new conference, you guys talked about it a little bit. People are going to want to beat up on these teams coming in both the Big 10 and the Big 12. And I think Arizona's going to have the biggest target on their back, being the most talented of the group coming in. So that's kind of my look at it. They do have to go to Utah. So that's going to be a tough game for them. They also have to go to Kansas State. So I'm staying away from Arizona for both the conference and their win totals, actually. I think I'm looking at them at the under. ranked too high for me. I think they're 14th right now. I think they're going to struggle, and I think they're going to get blown up in Kansas State when they get to week 3 here.
I think so too.
Arizona's not one of the ones I keyed in on for the big reason that Jed Fish took some of their players with him. I do like Fafita, but now everyone's going to be expecting it, and this could be a tough season for him. It's also, like I said before, another team moving conferences. I do not like teams moving conferences in the first year. I think it's going to be something that it's going to be a theme for them to be saying, you're going to get sick of me probably this year. If you're not sick of me already, you're probably going to get even sicker of me, because I'm going to be saying that when I'm fading these teams during the season. You know, they're going to have targets on their back, and expect that. I do like Fafita, though. I think he's eventually going to be a stud. I think he already is a stud. His Heisman odds aren't terrible. What about Heisman? You know, there's some long shots out there, but at the same time, you got guys like Carson Beck at plus 750, and Dylan over from Oregon. He's at like plus 752. I don't like Carson Beck, Sean, because I think Georgia's just going to stop people in the first half and might bench him.
Yeah, I think they're going to, like you said, he's not going to have the stats of some other guys. I think you're going to see a couple people potentially pop up, much like Jalen Daniels kind of did last year, kind of unexpected, where you're going to have a couple guys that are going to be playing for teams that are struggling. They're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. I wouldn't want to be on one of the favorites on the Heisman thing. I think both Beck and Gabriel, I think for the same reason, although Gabriel's got a little bit tougher schedule coming through the Big Ten than Beck does in Georgia. Everybody still loves Quinn Ewers. I don't, with them going into the SEC. I think that's going to be a tough sledding thing for him. You know, guys you might want to look at a little bit further down the board. Jackson Dart for Ole Miss might be an option. If you think they're going to have a good season, if that team ends up rolling off 10 wins or maybe even 11, I think he's got a real shot because he's going to be the one carrying them. Another thought, again, going back to my Big 12 thought process here, Jalen Daniels is plus 3,000, which is an interesting play if they end up winning the Big 12 and winning 10 or 11 games as well. So I think he could sneak up the board. Those would be my two guys that are a little bit further down, but I'm not touching any of the three favorites in the Heisman race. I just don't think the money's on the right spot right now.
Yeah, Jalen Daniels,
Dylan Raiola, maybe Fafita if I'm wrong about Arizona, because it could be all him, and it could just be offense. You're going to see a lot more offense, I think, in the Big 12. You know, just teams that are just the teams that play defense are favorites for a reason. So I agree with that. What about Miami? A lot of people hot on Miami in the ACC. Sean, are you a Mario Cristobal believer this year because of all the talent and the money spent?
I've never been a Mario Cristobal believer. I think he's one of the worst head coaches, especially from a game day decision making aspect. I don't think he holds a candle to a lot of the other coaches. That being said, the ACC is kind of weak this season, especially with the group coming in and who they're going to be playing. Their road games, you got to go to Cal, South Florida, Louisville, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse. So there's nothing really jumping out once they get to ACC play. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. I think that Florida game right off the bat will be interesting. But they should roll most of that ACC schedule, I think. But I still don't believe he's going to get it done if he actually has to play anybody with substance. So watch that Florida State game. They are at home in Miami in that game. I think that'll be the one where we really get the tail of if Miami's for real. But it's going to take a while to find out after opening weekend.
well,
Florida beats them pretty bad. You know, I mean, I bet Florida, Sean. I bet them plus 2.5. I'm mad at myself because I could have got plus 3.
I got the 3.
Well, congrats. Now I have to punish myself and double bet it. You know, I usually like to punish myself if I was on that side. But I think even though the line moved in that way, I don't see Florida. I don't see Florida winning. You know, I don't see Miami winning in the swamp. I think Florida is playing with house money in a way that, you know, it's like nobody believes in us. So we're just going to go out there and do that. Miami was loaned money to gamble. And they're out there with all this payments and everybody and expectations. And that's tough, man. That's tough. And the pressure's on Miami. Can they live up to the pressure? That's what I like about this game so much, Sean, because I really think that if they live up to the pressure in this game, maybe the Miami is for real, you know? Now, don't get me wrong. The odds are going to seriously switch on Miami. And this is the same thing for Notre Dame and Penn State at West Virginia. I think, you know, those games, it's like, I'm waiting until the first game to maybe take a future on them or a season win total. If Penn State just happens to choke at West Virginia, you're going to get a great number for them to make the playoffs. You know, it's just, I'm kind of hoping for them to lose just so I can get a good number because I think they're going to be better after that, you know?
Yeah, like I said, they should roll, but you got to remember this, okay? Miami is going into the swamp as a 3-point favorite against a team that has a win-loss projection of 5.5, right? I like Florida to go over that win projection, even in the rough SEC with that schedule, but they're not, a power team in the SEC. So Miami's going in there only favored by 3 doesn't say a lot for Miami, in my opinion. And I think the only way they're going to roll back into that playoff segment is because the ACC is going to be so weak this year, where I think that's how they get it done. But I don't think that good, only being favored by 3 walking into the swamp on opening weekend against a 5.5 win projected team.
Yeah.
That's so true, and I'm all over that. We got some odds up already for NFL Week 1. Have you bet anything in NFL Week 1?
The only thing I've got on the book right now is I did bet the Lions in the revenge game -3.5 to kick off Sunday Night Football on that opening weekend. I kind of looked at the Lions, and I'm kind of holding and waiting a little bit. I do like the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh at that 3.5 mark as well against the Raiders, but I haven't bet it yet because I'm kind of hoping that gets down to the 3, to be honest with you. But those were the 2 games I was picking out early. I'm one of those guys that kind of waits till a week before. There's a lot of stuff that can happen between now and then. If you think you're getting a good number, go ahead and jump on it. But you could also have a major injury happen that you don't know about yet at this point. And I'd like to wait another week and see where we're at. But the Lions was the big one rolling in for me. I think that revenge game from the playoffs and also with Stafford there is going to be a big deal for Detroit. And I think they're going to be pumped up and ready to go on Sunday Night Football. And they're going to hammer the Rams week 1.
All right, hammer the Rams. Well, there you go. I don't disagree with that. I mean, they're 3.5 for a reason. I do like the coach over at the Rams, but that spread itself is just telling you what the right side is. It's like it's 3.5 for a reason, guys.
It's not money
pushing it down, and
the Lions
would definitely beat anybody with margin. When they're hot, they're hot. They purposely are doing nothing in the preseason like they always do. And that's what you kind of hope, is that maybe that brings the odds a little bit down for you in your favor. And maybe you can find a 3. Maybe you can find a juice 3, a 3 -120, 125 or something. Be able to bet that game. I think it's a safe bet. I even kind of like them at 3.5 myself. I took the Ravens at the Chiefs, and I did it because I think the Chiefs are just kind of, they're kind of going to start the year off slow. I mean, they are Super Bowl hangover, obviously, but it's a double Super Bowl hangover now. They're all teams full of themselves. Travis Kelce's freaking partying his ass off with his Taylor Swift girlfriend. And, it's just a team that will gel later. All they need to do is limp into the playoffs. The Chiefs, if they get in as a wild card, they still should be the favorite, because they have Patty Mahomes. And Patty Mahomes is a playoff type guy. He's a Super Bowl quarterback. He'll turn it up when he wants to, almost like the Michael Jordan type situation where he'll turn it up when he needs to. It's like you can expect that. Just because they're losing something games doesn't mean that they're not going to win it all later. And they're also in the easiest division. But I have Baltimore. I have them number 1 in my power ratings, just like I did last year. Even after the Super Bowl, I still have Baltimore just a smidge over San Fran, and then I had the Chiefs 3rd. I think San Fran just choked that game away. They should have won that Super Bowl. But I'll take the +3 at the Ravens. I think that this could be a 1 or 2 point game with the Chiefs winning it. But obviously, if the Ravens can win it, they got there's going to be some serious field goal kickers in this game. You might see some 55, 60-yard field goals from some of these guys, right?
Yeah, you certainly could. But I think you hit the nail on the head with the double Super Bowl hangover. If you remember the single Super Bowl hangover going into last year, they lost that game to Detroit to kick it off too. So they are certainly going to have that again. We are going to be making a little change over here shortly as Derek Stevens has arrived at the booth. So I'm going to scoot out of here.
All right.
And I'll be back in a little bit.
All right, so I'm going to talk to you in a minute. All right, the odds breakers are back, and we have a wonderful guest for you today, Derek Stevens, the CEO of Circa Sports. Derek, how the heck you doing this contest weekend, man?
Great to see you. It's it's awesome. I mean, what a weekend this is. This is really turning into something. Everybody's fired up. It was great to see everybody at the opening cocktail party. I think Aaron told me we have 37 different radio stations and football podcasts here. Then, after all the interviews today, then it's Stadium Swim, and then we got the football preview tomorrow. This is amazing how it's grown. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. This is the best, man. I look forward to this weekend every single year. You are the best CEO in all of Las Vegas. I've said that many times. I will always say that again. You treat people with respect. You're approachable. Everybody loves it there. But let's talk about the contest, my man. It's so interesting. You got the survivors just pushing on. I think we're going to hit 10 million here. Million's a little short. What do you think we're going to end up with that?
Well, I do think we're going to hit 10 million in Circa Survivor. I'm hoping, maybe we get closer to 11.
Mm-hmm.
The Circa Millions, $6 million guarantee. I probably bit off more than I could chew once again. I think maybe we'll do a little bit better than last year, which is 5.2 million. But we're guaranteeing the 6. So I think there's going to be an overlay. So I think it's going to be even more positive expected value.
There's what we look for. There's no rate in these contests. Why would you not put in something like this? Because it pays the top 100. It pays the quarterly bonuses, and there's just contest within contest. And I think you did such a wonderful job. What do you think makes Circa football contests unique to other contests out there?
Well, I think probably the one big thing is that because we have a brick and mortar casino, we have maybe a little different model in as much as we're not taking a rake. If you're just an online book, you're going to have to take a rake. Our philosophy is not to take a rake, and every dollar that goes into the contest goes back to the participants. And people would ask me, well, why? And well, here's the gaffe. It's just simply we want people to come out to Las Vegas and visit our property.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that are participating for the first time, I'm pretty comfortable that some are going to like our property and want to stay here down the road. We're in a desert. Almost everybody's going to have to come in and buy a beer or buy a drink, So
right.
I think that's our story. We want people to come and visit our property. We're still a very new property. So for us, it's all about, getting people to experience what we have cooking here. And if you're a sports fan, as you know, I mean, we kind of built something that if you're a sports fan, this is where you got to come if you're coming to Vegas.
It's a great place for sports,
Even if you don't bet on sports, it's still the greatest place because you have these massive TVs.
You have all this excitement. You have the best pool in the world. I would say not just Las Vegas, the best pool in the world, and you just have so many activities to do. And that leads on to my next question: what makes the Circa special and the experience better than some of the other joints around Las Vegas?
Well, the great thing about Vegas is every hotel, every casino has its own vibe, its own niche. I felt that when we designed Circa, the prior 30 years, there maybe wasn't enough focus in on sports, and sports was maybe considered just an amenity for some of the bigger properties. And I thought there were enough sports fans out there that would really be attracted to a sports oriented property. I'm a big sports fan. I'm obviously a bettor, and I thought that would be something that no matter where you stay, if you really like betting on games, you're going to want to come out to Stadium Swim. You're going to want to come out to our sports book. So that was kind of the reasoning behind it. I just thought it was an underserved market, and it kind of fit what I want to do. I designed a place where I want to hang out.
Right? Yeah, and you do, and you hang out with the guests, which is awesome. You're so personable and such a just a genuine person, and we love that. And it makes it more exciting. But let's just talk about winners too. Let's talk about what it means to be a winner, a Survivor winner, a Circa Millions winner, because it's not just that you win and bye-bye, see you later. You kind of treat them pretty good over the next couple of years.
I'm glad you brought that up. You got to experience what it is. I mean, last night there were 20 Blue Jackets inside of Andiamo for our championship.
I was a plus one, Chris's plus one. I wish I was in the top three, but I was Chris's plus one.
I saw you there, and I was like, well, I wasn't quite sure how or why, but that made sense. But no, it was awesome. I'm glad you got to experience it because. Yeah, I mean, when somebody wins, whether they win Survivor or they win Circa Millions, I've told every one of the winners it's more than just getting a big check and doing media. You're really part of our Circa Sports family, like really forever. I mean, You win a green jacket at the Masters when you're 30 years old. You still wear the green jacket when you're 70. You know, so I think all the winners have a lot to be proud of, and we want to make sure that we celebrate them. Going forward, they've been great ambassadors. They really help kind of grow these contests.
Absolutely. And that's the
you
thing. Bring the guys in. You're always welcome back at the Circa. You pretty much become friends with everybody, which is great. Tony Gordon, you talk a lot, and I think that's even more special almost than winning, because you feel like a winner every single year, and that's really special.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. Like, this weekend has now turned into a weekend where friends you met 2 years ago or a year ago, everybody kind of has this weekend circled on their calendar. They're all coming back in, seeing a lot of old friends. I guess it's kind of like a homecoming type of thing. Homecoming for football bettors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a homecoming. It's just another year you can celebrate what you did in the past. So what's your vision for the future of Circa Sports Contest? Do you think there has to be changes at some point as it grows?
Well, I mean, this year, we really had to wait out, and we had to sweat out the NFL schedule release. We knew that Christmas was going to be unique. Early on, there was discussion there wasn't going to be Christmas games, and I kind of thought, I don't know, after last year's Christmas games and the ratings the NFL had, I think the NBA opened themselves and became a little vulnerable. NBA historically owned Christmas Day from a sports perspective, and then last year NFL came in, and boy, oh boy, they just hammered it home, and they dominated Christmas Day ratings. So I kind of thought the NFL was going to figure out a way to have games on this Wednesday. And when that happened, that kind of helped set up how we were going to set up Circa Survivor with the 20-week schedule and all that. So you just have to be a little flexible as things evolve. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if there's one additional regular season game at some point. NFL has a strong desire to have every team play an international game. And now 9 and 8 home games flip-flopping between AFC and NFC. If there's more games added to the schedule, you just have to adapt. So that's kind of what I would say. We would just adapt.
That makes sense. As there's more and more people, there's more and more ties. Adding a 6 game has extra challenge to it, and it certainly would separate the top from the bottom. And whose idea was it to add the Thursday game to Christmas week?
Oh, well, when we looked at it, just because of Christmas, we thought the schedule this year, it would have been too difficult. You would have been limited on just too few a selection. So we thought adding Thursday was going to make more sense, and it adds a little bit more game theory on who you may want to hold back early in the season. So we thought strategically it was a bonus, and we also thought it adds some flexibility that people would like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of flexibility.
And
it's just you want to get to week because there's games. It's weird.
Wednesday. But it was really smart to add that game and just kind of separate it out. Probably a little bit of changing the program too, a little bit the software, I would think.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I guess also, celebrating Christmas. I guess this is our Canadian version of Circa Survivor, because now we're celebrating Boxing Day.
There you go, Boxing Day. Never would have thought of Boxing Day. Well, Derek, you're awesome. Everyone, make sure you come down to the casino and sign up for Circa Millions. You're going to run into Derek somewhere or the other. Really appreciate you coming on, Derek.
Thanks. Good luck with everybody with Odds Breakers. Great to see everybody.
Great to see you. All right, my friends. We will be back on the top of the hour with Mike Palm and more guests from the Circa. We'll be talking about more Circa Millions as well as college football and NFL football.